The Milwaukee Panthers win a spirited game over their in-state rivals, the Green Bay Phoenix, by a score of 75 to 72 in Milwaukee after a big second half. And Green Bay led most of this game. Milwaukee only spent less than 2 minutes with the lead, but when the game tightened up at the end, Milwaukee made the plays necessary to grab a massive win that sees them jump a few spots in the standings as well. This is the Post Panthers Breakdown, brought to you by the UWM Post. I'm Jack Bowder, your sports editor, and let's get into it. So now the Panthers have won two straight in a row. The game prior at IU Indy, came down to the wire as well, but the Panthers finally got that win. They break the losing streak, and Coach Bart Lundy talked about it after this one. How this result against, a good Green Bay team who's had heck of a year compared to last year, where they only won 4 games all season. This could really be a springboard for the rest of the season. 3 games left. You want to finish strong. You want to finish middle of the pack in the Horizon League. We can take a peek at the standings. Now you're sitting above Youngstown State, Cleveland State, obviously IU Indy, who's had a rough season. But now there's even a path you could go ahead of Northern Kentucky, and you really can't finish in the 10th or 11th spot, like I've said in a prior episode. The winner of the 10th and 11th game plays the 1 seed. You don't want to play the 1 seed. Although anything can happen in the Horizon League, anybody can beat anybody on any given night. That is the nature of this league. And Milwaukee was able to beat Green Bay. They avoid the season sweep, one apiece. This year, Green Bay got the first matchup, and I was interested to see the differences between the first game to this one. In the first half of the first game, Green Bay kind of blitzed Milwaukee. They were really taking advantage of mismatches. Justin Allen had a big half in the first matchup this year. Only finished with 9 points in this one. Marcus Hall was the player of the game between both teams. He had it going all night until like the last like minute and a half where he missed a few shots. But other than that, he played a near flawless game. 32 points, five threes. I feel like one thing Milwaukee could have done better is, keeping a guy on him, you know, not overhelping, not allowing Marcus Hall, who's one of the best shooters on Green Bay and in the league, open corner threes, whatnot. But Marcus Hall just had it going all game, and he really had an answer for most of the game, and that was a theme throughout. Green Bay had the lead early on; they had the lead most of the game, but Milwaukee always kept it close. They never let it got too far. The biggest lead for Green Bay was 8 points, so they were always in striking distance. And then at the end, Milwaukee was able to prevail. They finally took the lead at the end, and then Preston Rudiger drove to the hole, didn't get a foul call. Doug Gottlieb, you probably saw the post game press conference. I walked in during the middle of that, right after Doug slammed the desk, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, officiating, definitely a topic. The free throw discrepancy, 37 attempts for Milwaukee, 18 for Green Bay. I mean, that's what Milwaukee does. They get to the hole, and with all the injuries they've faced this year, that's what they have to do. They have to be aggressive. And I thought a big thing in this game that allowed the Panthers to win was not getting in their own way, which we saw on their losing streak. That was a problem. They didn't play discipline, allowing a lot of second chance points. In this one, they only allowed four, untimely turnovers, defensive breakdowns. And I felt like in this one, everybody was really up for the game and they were locked in as well, not, making mental mistakes. Josh Dixon didn't have the best game, 0 of 6 from the field, but there was one play in the first half, I believe, where he got the ball and he was really pushing it in transition. And instead of maybe earlier in the season, or if you're on the losing streak, he'd keep driving and take it into the lane and take a bad layup and miss. But he kind of pulled it back out and then found Chandler Jackson open for three, who Chandler Jackson has to be the player of the game for the Panthers, 2 games in a row as well. At IU Indy dropped, I believe, 25 points in that one. And this is a guy who was redshirted, he wasn't supposed to play. And to see his growth, the past couple of weeks, it's been pretty remarkable. Another guy who, similar story, Aaron Franklin wasn't expected to play too many minutes this season, but has stepped up and been one of the biggest producers on this team. 9 points in this one, 5 rebounds for him, made a couple threes as well. Faison Fields, also, I think him being back and Coach Lundy talked about it in the post-game presser that he's still not 100% at all. He said he's around 60%, but I think just having him out there, a guy who can rebound, finish with the team high 7 rebounds in this one, a guy who can play defense, and he has the ability to switch out. You see him a couple times switching out on Justin Allen, Marcus Hall late in the game. Like he's such a helpful player to have out there that they really missed him when he was injured for around a month. Besides Pippa White, who got a lot of praise from Coach Lundy after the game at IU Indy, not only made one shot, but dished out 7 dimes in this one. I thought he played lively, played good defense. And I think the big adjustment in this game was obviously not getting out into down in a big hole like you did the prior game against the Phoenix. But they didn't let the mismatches kill them. I thought a few times Martin Cicic for Green Bay, was able his 3 buckets, he'd have a smaller guy on him and he just beat him, lay it up close at the hoop. And Green Bay went big a little bit here. They also put Vukasin, put Todorovic in there. Excuse me if I'm wrong. But yeah, also this game it was fired up. It's a rivalry, 2 techs in this one to Doug Gottlieb, one to CJ O'Hara as well. Doug Gottlieb also had some choice words about those calls. But we get into some positives. Obviously, the win, as the season goes on, each game is more important. Each game, there's more pressure. Each win is bigger as you go. Chandler Jackson, obviously, we talked about his rise this season, his production this season has been remarkable. And also just the ability to keep this game in striking distance, because that's what you had to do. And then at the end, you take your shot when you have it. They didn't let it get away. They didn't let themselves get in a big hole. They didn't make those mistakes they're making on their losing streak, getting in their own way. Because when your team is this injured, you can't do that and expect to win games. So they played pretty disciplined. They fought throughout, and free throws, he shot at a good clip. 81%, that's pretty good for this team. Team's not the greatest free throw shooting team, for sure. They shot a good percentage from three, 7 of 15, so that's a positive. In the first half, they got Coach Lundy said you like the looks they got, just couldn't knock them down, especially from two. And I think I agree with that statement. Decent looking mid-range shots, floaters that could have gone in that didn't. They started out, rough in the first half, shooting wise, shooting under 30%, but really picked it up in the second half, shooting over 57% in that second, and 22 of 24 in the second half as well from the free throw line. So really efficient in the second half offensively. Now, some negatives you could say is Green Bay still shot very well from the field from three, over 50%, over 40%. Marcus Hall cooked them most of the game. But yeah, a big result that it can, this team isn't done yet. This team didn't roll over and die. You pick up 2 wins in a row. That's so big for your confidence. And who knows where this can lead? We can look at what's next for the Panthers. Detroit Mercy, one of those games on their losing streak, they lost at home, were pretty undisciplined, I believe. allowed like a 12-0 run to end the first half of that game. So this version of the Panthers, if they play disciplined again, they should have a shot in it. Detroit Mercy is not the greatest team. They are a big team. So the rebounding battle is something to watch out. Then a game at Oakland, that'll be tough. Campy is always tough. He always has that group playing well with their zone. But then you come back, another winnable game to end the season at Youngstown State. And then after that, we enter Horizon League tournament. Milwaukee not most likely not going to have home court advantage. Last year Oakland knocked them out of the postseason despite Milwaukee's home court advantage. So we will see how the chips fall. But an encouraging result against their biggest rival, and the biggest crowd, we've seen this season, and I believe in the Bart Lundy era. So a huge game for the Panthers to grab against their rival, and we will see what's next for this team. Who's going to step up next? Chandler Jackson, he's become one of the biggest threats on this offense. No, who else? Who else has it in them? Josh Dixon didn't have a great game, but he can definitely go on a flurry. Amar Aguilar was in foul trouble, only finished with 9 points in this one. Didn't have his greatest game, but I don't think Milwaukee's a team you really want to face going into the postseason. Especially with these microwave players that can get hot. Stevie Elam had the big defensive play at the end, and these guys are really playing at a good level. And we can take a look around the Horizon League, see some results from the day. Detroit Mercy 76-70 over Youngstown State. Robert Morris beat Oakland 93-69. They kind of blew them out of the water. Wright State put up 102 on Cleveland State. Wright State probably going to be the number one seed going into the Horizon League tournament, and Purdue Fort Wayne 83, IU Indy 78. And then, of course, the Milwaukee Green Bay result 75-72. Game that went down to the wire, and some big free throws late from Amar Aguilar. Stevie Elam helped finish off the game for Milwaukee. A big result that, who knows, maybe it could be the start of a special run. Probably not, but we will see. Till next time. Thank you.